Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to Grumpy Monkey Garage. And today we're talking about jack stands. Probably just jack stands. Here we go.
I'll give you all of what I've got. The fancy finds, baby, I have not. Just gonna love you. Yeah, I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna love you, baby. Cross my heart and hope to die.
Now before I go off telling you which jack stands to buy and what features to look for, you should probably know how to use them. So just to cover our basis, we're gonna go over where to put a jack stand on a car like this that's a unibody. So when you got a jack stand, you got a pinch weld right here on the car. It's where you would put a jack to change a flat tire. There's just two little notches. We're basically just gonna take this jack stand, put it right there, get as high as you can, and then let the jack down onto the jack stand so the jack stand is holding the weight of the car, not the jack. So that's how you gotta do it. Today we're going to talk about jack stands and why I chose these three sets of jack stands that I've got right here and kind of the features you want to look for in a jack stand, just like we did in our jack video, which you can go check out as well. I have had these jack stands here for as long as I've had my Pittsburgh 3-ton jack, also mentioned in the other video. And these are my favorite because they were very cheap at Harbor Freight. They were a Pittsburgh 3-ton. They do the job well. The head design allows this little V-notch, so if you've got the pinch weld of a car you're jacking it up by, you can actually grab that in this, and that's a really good feature that I like that's not found in the other jack stands we have today. So I really enjoyed these jack stands, and I think they're very good buy. They weren't very expensive either. And I always use a jack stand when you jack a vehicle up, because I have had jacks fail before, and I was very glad I had a jack stand under there, or else I would probably not have all the wonderful ones I got today. So we definitely don't want to have that happen to you. So use a jack stand. Some things you want to look for in a jack stand. You want it to be overrated for what you're doing again. I do not have the ability in my shop to lift 6 tons, but I have 6-ton jack stands. The reason for that is because if I can lift it with the jack, this is going to hold it no problem. You don't want to have a 3-ton jack and 2-ton jack stands, because that means if you lift something up that's 3 tons, you put down a 2-ton jack stands, it'll probably hold it, but is it going to be safe, especially as things get older? Probably not, so definitely not something you want to go off doing. Also, all these jack stands here you'll see are in pairs, and the reason for that is because if you're jacking a vehicle up, like this old toasty Corolla here, you jack it up in the front, you're going to put jack stands under the doors. You want it to be even. If you've got this Mungo jack stand and this little jack stand that you bought at a garage sale, and they're not even, the car's not going to sit straight, and you're going to have a more difficult time doing things like a steering rack or exhaust when you have it unevenly jacked up. So definitely you want to get a set that's the same. Also, I like that they're all like a grip shape, like this parenthesis shape going on right here. All of them have that feature. A lot of modern jack stands have that feature, so it's not like you're looking for 10 different sets that have different head designs, but I definitely want this, and I think you should too. This is nice and wide. It's going to grab a frame rail in the center, or it can grab a pinch weld in the center. You're not going to, have a bad time with these jack stands. I've seen some older jack stands that have a design that's kind of a cylindrical, almost like a water bottle shaped head, and it's got a little notch in it, but it's very small. This is very wide, so as you lower the jack, you have a little bit of room for error, and that's okay, because nobody's perfect. You're going to make a little error from time to time. I'd rather it not cost you the customer's car door or anything like that. Now, these two on the ends were purchased from Harbor Freight. These were purchased from Walmart. I think these are either Black & Decker or Stanley. I don't remember. But they were the cheap Walmart 3-tons that you can buy in the Walmart section where you would buy jacks and jack stands. But they do great. The only thing with them is they feel kind of cheap and flimsy. They're not quite as stout as these are. These are definitely, not on par, but at the same time, they were very affordable. I needed an extra set of jack stands. You always want to have plenty of jack stands around, and I got these to go with that little 1.5-ton Pittsburgh that we did in that other video, because if that 1.5-ton Pittsburgh will lift it, these jack stands will hold it, so that's why we've got these. All right, now, depending on what you're going to be doing with the jack stands is going to determine which one you want to buy. Just like in our jack video, it's depending on what you're doing. If you're changing your brakes on your Honda Accord on a Saturday afternoon, either one of these sets are going to be fine for you. If you're the DIY in your garage, these are great. I mean, I used these Pittsburghs here on the right professionally for a while, and they're great. I'm not complaining about them at all, but these are both the sets that you want to get if you're just doing your own car maintenance in your garage, or if you're just starting out in the professional line. These two are going to do just fine for you. Now, that being said, if you are doing your own maintenance because you got a big work van or a work truck and you don't have a whole lot of, you only want to buy one set of jack stands, you need to be getting these. So these are going to get the vehicle up higher, not necessarily the weight rating. You could have a Ford Ranger, it doesn't require 6 tons to lift up in the air. You're going to want this because of how high it's letting you go. So if you have to change a transmission or a rear end, or you're doing a leaf spring, whatever you're doing, you want to be able to get the vehicle up high enough, especially me, I'm fat, I have to fit under stuff. This is going to get it up high enough that I can actually do the work on a creeper and not be laying on the cold ground. It's got plenty of room to work overhead. It's not right on my face wrenching right here. It's up high enough to do the work. These are the ones you're going to want to go with. These aren't that much more expensive than these. They're way overrated, but if you're working on a Honda Accord, are they necessary? Absolutely not. There's nothing you're doing on there that's going to require more than this. So these are going to be absolutely, I've actually changed an engine in a Honda Accord on these jack stands before. And a Corolla's engine as well on those. I've done plenty of engine swaps on these. But whenever I do transmissions on rear-wheel drive trucks or a Jeep one time, these are the jack stands I go with because it just gives me that much more room to tilt things and to get things in a perfect angle that I needed them to. Does gets the vehicle a little higher, and I'm able to actually do the work. So some things to not buy on jack stands. I have seen a bunch of people try to do the pull apart thing where you take the wheel rims and you weld them together and that's your jack stand, and it works fine if you're in a junkyard, and that's why they do it. It's cheap and it's efficient for them. If you're working in a garage, that takes up a lot of floor space that you could be needing to get into. Also, yeah, it might be fine and stable, but if you're working on a customer car, might scratch something in the door. It might be on a frame rail that you suddenly now need to access depending on what you're doing. It's better just to go with a rated jack stand. It's not going to give you the same trouble as that. That wheel rim could rust one day or could not hold the weight you were hoping it was going to hold and crush in. There's just things you don't really want to run into problems. Get a set of proper jack stands and be safe out there. Don't be a moron. Also, wooden blocks. I've actually seen this at a customer's house one time. We went there to work on his Jeep, and he had the front diff suspended by a wooden post like what's holding our engine up here. And that was just vertical little 4x4 holding the front diff up in the air on this Jeep. And well, that's a no-go. Don't do that at all, because the wood could, if you leave it up there, it could rot, it could splinter. You don't know the weight rating of that piece of wood. He certainly didn't, but yeah, it worked for him, but that doesn't mean it's going to be safe every time. You want safety first. It's not worth killing yourself or damaging your car over trying to save $15 or $20 or $30 for a set of jack stands. It's definitely not worth it. We'll put links in the description to all of these. Don't really have that much to say about jack stands, so we're going to end the video here. And you guys be safe out there and don't be a moron. We'll see you next time.